Okay.
Sorry, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. Great.
Thank you. Thanks so much for this year. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Okay, so I think last time we had begun. We started reading through a shach who had introduced the shita of the Aviasaf. We were speaking about the Prisha, the Chiyuv Prisha on a Yom Vest, which the Gemara in Nida and Samar Gimel identifies as the Ona Samach Levesta, and the Mechaber had very clearly told us that the Chiyuv Prisha exists for what he calls one Ona, one time period, which, as the Mechaber himself spells out, very clearly means if the previous Re'iyah, if it's a Vesh'ena Kavu or Ves Kavu, if the Kvias was that she always has her Re'iyah's dam during the day, so then the Onas Avest is the daytime, she's Asr all day, and the night before, the night after are totally mutter. On the other hand, if the previous Re'iyos were by night, so then the Onas Avest that there's a Chiyuv Prisha on is during the nighttime, and the day before and the day after are going to be mutter. That was the way the Mechaber presented the Chiyuv Prisha on the Yom Havest. Now the Shach over here, brought in a shita of the Aviasaf, which we're going to just read over that, to start off with today, and then we're going to develop that, and there's two we're going to call the maverick shitas that the Shach here brings that we're going to spend some time with today, talking about. So the Shach begins in Sivkat and Zayin, and that's what we're going to start with, the Shach and Zayin, and the Shach writes it like as follows: Kasava goes Maimoni b'Shem Aviasaf. There goes Maimonides quotes the Aviasaf, who writes Kama Ona Yom Olayla. That's basically a quote from the Gemara, and then the Aviasaf adds B'Yemei Nisan v'Tishrei, or Chetzi Yom v'Chetzi Layla B'Yemei Tammuz v'Teves Adkan Lashona. And that's the quote from the Chagos Maimonides quoting the Aviasaf, that it's an entire night or day if it's the regular equinox days of Yemei Nisan and Tishrei, when the day and night time are both of 12 hours even. The Aviasaf writes, so when you're dealing with times of the year, like in Tammuz or in Teves, where the night and day are totally imbalanced, during the wintertime, night is much longer than during the day, and during the summertime, the daytime is much longer than during the nighttime. So he says then it's going to be what he calls the Chetzi Yom, the Chetzi Laila, B'Yemei Tammuz v'Tishrei, meaning to say that you go for a full 12-hour period, irrespective of what do you call, whether or not that's all during the day or whether or not it's also into the nighttime. Okay. Now the Shach goes on and says that the Beis Yosef was Dacha Devar. The Beis Yosef rejects that Aviasaf. Me'achar shaposkim lo his kiru. First of all, the other Rishonim, the Beis Yosef says, don't quote that Aviasaf. That's not a shita that's mainstream in the Rishonim. V'gam, and more than that, the Beis Yosef tain is listen to Hashas is mashma the lo kaped al hayom o al alayla v'lo al shos. Beis Yosef then continues and says that the Pasha reading of the Gemara, if we have time, we'll discuss a little bit later what exactly these Gemaras are. We'll see one when we look at the Taz. The Pasha reading of the Gemara implies that it's only during the Onas Hayom or Onas Halayla. We don't look at 12 hours at all. And that whole idea of the Onas Havest bridging from the daytime into the nighttime or vice versa, that's what it says in the Gemara. Now, the Shach continues, Hamadani Melech Perakam Nida, and the Bach, Reisigo Alav. We're just going to quote right now as the Bach sees the main, the more mainstream posik here. The Bach argues on that Beis Yosef, and he says, Divrei Aviasaf Nechonim. He says, no, what the Aviasaf says, that you use 12 hours as a standard, set, fixed amount for the Chiyuv Prisha and the Yom Havest, that's actually correct. So that sheet of the Aviasaf, the Bach says that's clear in the Gemara and Daf Samachei in Masechta Nida Ad Kan Devarav. Okay. And the Shach says I found in one of the other Rishonim, the Ra'avan, the Beis Yosef Tainis Rishonim, don't hold it that I found one other place where you find the Aviasaf Shita being cited as the halacha. Now, what's of course intriguing right off the bat, even if we're not yet B'kiyim in Maseches Nida, is that the Beis Yosef and the Bach seem to be, going at it over here in terms of whether or not the Gemara clearly says not like the Aviasaf, or the Gemara says exactly like the Aviasaf, right? The Beis Yosef's line is that the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says, not like that. And the Bach says, what do you mean? The Gemara says exactly like that. So we'll see exactly what the Gemaras are a little bit later on. The Shach continues, Mashalu his kiru poskim ein raya. Says the Shach, I don't think there's any real raya against the Aviasaf from the fact that the poskim don't quote that. Because Bistam Yom or Bistam Laila Mayri. Because first of all, when they speak about the Onas Hayom or Onas Halayla, he says they're probably talking about a Stam Yom and a Stam Laila. I mean to say your classic, we'll call it right now, picture perfect model of a day is going to be the Yemei Nisan or the Yemei Tishrei, an even, equal 12-hour day and 12-hour night. But so a Stam Yom, you're right. It's also during the day and it's also 12 hours. But if you move into the more exotic kind of days like you have during the summertime, you're right. So then it's not going to be just during the day, and it's not just going to be at the nighttime. And yeah, you're going to count hours when it comes to the Yemei Tammuz or Tishrei. And he gives some examples. Again, we pointed out last time that some of the examples here have to be analyzed a little bit more clearly, which we're not going to do here in the context of this year. But he says, "Ki ha'gavna matzinim b'kama duchte b'shas uposkim l'inyan kriya shma l'inyan chametz b'erev Pesach, etc. L'inyan chishav tekufos when you want to calculate when the tekufos are v'ki ha'gavna tuve and many other examples like that." And that's the end of the Shach in his discussion about the Aviasaf. The simple reading of the Shach gives you the impression, as it very clearly is meant to, that the Shach himself seems to be siding in favor of the Aviasaf, right? He brings on that the Bach says, what do you mean? You can't just reject that. The Shach says, I even found in the Ra'avan, like the Shita of the Aviasaf, I'm not so bothered by the fact that the poskim don't quote it, because Mistama, when the Gemara says Yom or Laila, it just means the Stam Yom and Stam Laila, the classic picture perfect day. And we can't be medayik too much in any direction, from there. Okay, that is the opinion of the Shach. Now, if you look in the Taz in Sifkat and Beis, and the standard printing of the Shulchan Aruch, it's one page earlier than when we're reading right now. But if you look at the Taz in Sifkat and Beis, so he also brings this Aviasaf, but it's a little bit further, and the Taz is organized exactly the opposite in this one than the Shach. The Shach first goes to the Aviasaf and then deals with the maverick sheet of the Or Zarua, and the Taz does just the opposite. But if you look in your Taz and you go to the first like two dots in the Taz, again it might be broken into paragraphs, and I don't know what kind of a printing you have, but you see there's the first paragraph of the Taz, and then he begins with the words Od Hevi Beis Yosef B'Shema goes Maimonios Shekasa B'Shema V'Yasaf Sha'ona Zu Yom O Laila Mimei Nisan V'Tishrei Shayom V'Laila Shavin Ava B'Tamaz V'Teves Bin in Chetzi Yom V'Chetzi Laila. But in Tamaz V'Teves you're going to calculate the Onas Aves not just as a daytime or a nighttime, but it's actually a hybrid, half a day into the half a night, because you have to get your full 12 hours out of there. Tema, and then he quotes he's now, this is a more full quote of the Gos Maimonios. The Gos Maimonios ends with the words Tema. I'm quoting the Aviasaf, but even the Gos Maimonios himself says Tema. That's a very strange shita. The Taz continues with Kasa Beis Yosef al Zeh Benira Shataymo. Beis Yosef says, my guess is that the reason why this is true is Mishum de Mashmalo the Shir Ona have a Yud Beis Shos Mei Shos Shem Kavdale Bayom Uva Laila. The Mistama is saying that the Ona, right, Onas Hayom, Onas Halayla, is half of the classic 24-hour day, 12 hours. Mikomakom Nir Shein Lachash Lakach. Beis Yosef says, I don't think we have to be concerned about that sheet at all. Me'achash haposkim lo is kiru Gam Lishna. The Gemara Mashman the Lokapet Ela Ayom O Alaylo. Lovis Kiru shows we Peraka Isha Ela Mishum Pluktis the Biosi the Hasam Ad Kam Lishono. And the Taz points out, the Beis Yosef points out that even though the phrase shows does in fact appear in the Gemara in context of the halachas of Prisha on a vest, there the Gemara is just saying something totally different. The Gemara is pointing out that Rabbi Yossi has a shita that the only chiyuv Prisha is if there is an exact shah for the vest. So according to Rabbi Yossi, he actually argues on what we do. And Rabbi Yossi says if let's say she sees always during the day, but it's always at 11:30 in the morning. So the chiyuv Prisha is at 11:30, and it's not from 6 in the morning to 11:30. It's not 11:30 till the end of the day. It's at the shah that she has her actual vest. According to Rabbi Yossi, it's only true if she actually has a set time that she always sees at. But we hold the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan is that shows don't count like this. Even if she's always only seen at 11:30 in the morning, the chiyuv Prisha is going to be throughout that entire day that's there. Okay, so says the Beis Yosef. Yeah, the Gemara says shows, but it's not in this context. The Taz continues, and here this is a famous example, one of the most classic, beautiful Shalom Bayis debates that are there. The Shach and the Taz and his father-in-law, the Bach, oftentimes argue with each other. But to argue like that in learning is a beautiful thing. Because of a love, Mori Chamizal, my father-in-law, my teacher writes against that Beis Yosef, the Ishtameit mi balagos mi monios mi Beis Yosef ad isa bereish perak tinokos the hedya. They must have forgotten a Gemara in Perak Tinokos in Masechta Nida. Gabe Nida nami heviona yud beis shows davka. The Gemara there says that even by the inyanim of a Nida, an Ona is 12 hours. Hainu o yom o laila b'minisan b'tishrei, or chetzi on v'chetzi laila, a 12-hour combination, half a day, half a night for 12 hours straight in Tammuz or Teves. And says the Bach Lahachi Naktin, on that side we pass him like the Aviasaf. And the Taz comes along after that Chazara, what we just read, and the Taz comes along and says, whoa, absolutely not. He says, Vakashali, I have some major league problems. And from here on, I'm gonna not really read inside right now. We're gonna read the beginning part, and then we're gonna summarize a lot just to make it a little bit easier for us. He says, Vakashali, I got a big problem with this. Because the im tomer b'shows talya milsa, if you're telling me that the issue and of the chiyuv Prisha is based on an amount of time, how many hours they have to be porish, and there's a set amount of 12 hours, memela isar ha'ona hu ba'oso perik shiragila liros hein bayom hein balayla. What you're automatically going to have to say is, the Taz says, our starting point, the nekudas haschala is always going to be that the chiyuv Prisha begins in the ona that the previous re'iyah was. Let's say it was a day re'iyah, so next month you look at the daytime. Okay? So let's start with that premise for a second. A previous re'iyah in the day means today, in this month's chiyuv Prisha, it's a daytime chiyuv Prisha. Says the Taz, well, the timsa kan lomer yud beis shows. Now, you're never going to be able to find a sensible way to make the calculation of 12 hours of Prisha. He starts off, and there are many examples, but he starts you off, we can imagine the rest. The only way you're going to have a sensible 12 hours is if she sees on the perfect equinox day at exactly 12 noon. You have 6 hours before that, 6 hours after that. Then we understand 12 hours, or B'emsa Alayla. But Amtira b'sof hayom b'nisan b'tishrei. But let's say, for argument's sake, her re'iyah is always during the end of the day. Okay, just gonna make up a time. It's 6 o'clock at night or 5:59 at night. That's the 1 minute before the shkia. That's when she sees. Now, says the Taz, Eich tachshov yud beishos. How are you gonna now make your calculation of a sensible 12 hours? Is if you're gonna tell me that it's 12 hours from that moment and on, which means basically 12 hours in the nighttime, then you're giving no credence at all to the idea of the ona savesh. She saw during the daytime. So the day, the ona of her vest has to be meaningful. if you're going to tell me that she's only asura for the 12 hours leading up to that. So then the Taz comes along and says that also doesn't work out. What's going to end up happening now is you had 12 hours that led up to that 1 second that we know that she saw, and after that she's going to be totally muteris. But he says, but that also doesn't make any sense because right now the time that it's shayach that she actually begins seeing just took place now, and you tell me there's a 12-hour prisha. Where does that make sense? Now he says, if you're going to tell me that what you always do is you take the time, let's say for argument's sake, she sees at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so you're always going to add 6 hours before that and 6 hours after that. So then what the Taz says is that what essentially that means is even during Yemei Nisan v'Tishrei, you don't actually ever have what we're going to call an onas havest. Remember, the Aviasa presented this as saying that the idea of a yom or a laila being the chiyuv prisha, right, is when you're talking about the perfect, picture perfect day of a 12-hour even split day and nighttime. But as the Taz says, but you're never going to have that, because if you, as we just explained, if you're going to answer her all day long, but not from the moment of the vest and on, that sounds strange that we're not going to be choshesh for the actual time of the vest and the moments on. If you're going to be answering her after that, that means you're giving no credence to the actual onas havest. And if you're going to do a 6 hours before and 6 hours after, that for sure means that the onas havest itself takes on absolutely zero significance. So the Taz says, I just don't think it's practical to actually have such a shita. Now, Lamaisa, the poskim that do say we hold like the Aviasef seem to indicate that you do exactly what the Taz didn't like, 6 hours before and 6 hours and 6 hours after. We'll get to that a little bit later on. The Taz continues and he points out that the Bach does bring a Gemara that speaks about 12 hours being an Ona. So the Taz says, wait a second. The Taz says, look back at that Gemara. And you'll see that there's no shaykhas. The Taz argues very strongly. He says no shaykhas at all with our discussion. That Gemara was speaking about an area in halacha that we actually don't keep anymore nowadays, where the Gemara discussed the idea that when there's dam besulim, right after a woman gets married, there's dam besulim. So when the husband actually breaks the hymen and there actually is dam besulim, let's say they have a subsequent bia, okay, and there's still dam. So the Gemara has different discussions. Again, there's a lot of detail that I'm leaving out. We don't practice any of the things that we're discussing right now. But the Gemara has a concept that anytime she sees dam within, this is now the line of the Gemara that the Bach is picking up on, that the Shach is arguing, that the Taz is arguing with. Anytime she sees dam within the Ona, a 12-hour period of when the dam besulim came out, we can be told that that's not a new Re'iyaz dam, but rather that's residue of the dam besulam. So the Taz comes along and says, but even though the Gemara, it uses the word an ona, she can be told that her dam is dam besulam and she's still tahora for one ona, but the Gemara says that it doesn't mean an ona, it means 12 hours. So the Bach says, don't you see? The Gemara says ona equals 12 hours. The Taz comes and says, no, that Gemara is referring to a biological and physical phenomena. How long is it possible that there still be residue of the dam besulim, that if dam comes out of the isha, we say that was generated, that's sort of a result of the dam besulim and not actual new dam nidos that's there. But so enachanami, that you can say that for about 12 hours after the Ilas mitzvah, you can still assume that what's coming out is the dam besulim. That is no shaykhas to the idea of a chiyuv prisha at all, being a 12-hour chunk, and therefore the Taz himself argues on the Aviasaf, argues on the Shach, and says, no, we absolutely do not hold like that shita of the Aviasaf, and that ends up getting rejected. Lahalacha according to the Taz. Now, what ends up happening over here is that we actually have now a very, very interesting a very interesting and important discussion as a result as a result of this discussion between the Shach and the Taz. Many of the poskim who are going to be following, meaning historically come after the Shach and the Taz, now debate, okay, so what exactly is the halacha? So for example, on the bottom of the page in Shulchan Aruch, there's a sefer called the Torah Shlamim, a very, very basic Pirish in Hilchos Nida. So the Torah Shlamim and Sivkat and Vav brings down the Shita of the Aviasaf that the Onas Havest, the Chiyah Prisha, is a 12-hour span that's there regardless of daytime, nighttime. It's the 12 hours around the actual time that she's going to see. He says the Bach, defends that. The Shach Paskins, like that. He brings out that the Taz argues on the Bach, on the Aviasaf, and the Torah Shlamim ends Devar of Nechonim Lama'ayin B'Shasu Poskim. If you look in the Gemara, what the Taz says makes a lot of sense. The Gemara doesn't really seem to say what the Bach wants to take it to say. Again, what the Pshat in the Bach is, you can debate at a different time. The Lamaisa Pashup Pshat in the Gemara is definitely like the Shita of the Taz. So the Torah Shlamim says, and that machlok is the Taz and the Shach. We're going to pass like the Taz that says that we don't care about the Aviasaf at all. Now, interestingly, is that the Chachmas Adam, who was one of the great poskim before the advent of the Mishnah Brura, for sure the Sefer and Halacha that people paskin like when you needed to go to, what's the din, what's the halacha, was there are two svarim, Chai Adam and Chachmas Adam, written both by the same author. Chai Adam is on Orach Chaim, the Chachmas Adam is on the Yeridea parts. The Chachmas Adam actually says that one should be machmir, like the Shach, like the Aviasaf. The Chiyah Prisha is going to be a full 12-hour experience. Okay, so the Aviasaf, even though it's quote unquote rejected, but Lamaisa, it should be noted that the Chachmas Adam very, very clearly says that one should try to be machmir like that shita of the Aviasaf. Now, interestingly here is a further discussion. Now we're going to branch into two different branches right now. A further discussion about what this Aviasaf highlights for us about the nature of the chiyuv of a Prisha on a Yom Havest. In other words, okay, I'll just spell out these two main shitos. The Machaber in Shulchan Aruch very clearly says that the chiyuv Prisha, okay, is only for the what's called the Onas Havest. If she sees during the daytime, they have to be porish during the daytime. She sees at nighttime, they're porish at nighttime. That's all, right? Regardless of whether it was 9 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon. A daytime Re'iyah is a daytime Chiyah Prisha, and a nighttime Re'iyah is a nighttime Chiyah Prisha. That's the Psak of the Shulchan Aruch, Kuf Beidal Tzif Beis. The Aviasaf, who the Shach is paskening like, and the Chachmas Adam says no. The Chiyah Prisha is a 12-hour, and we're going to, for simplicity's sake right now, we're going to say it's a 12 hours, well, the 6 hours before, 6 hours after the known time that she has to see, but there's always going to be a 12-hour Prisha that one has to make sure to be carrying out. Now, the Shulchan Aruch Harav, okay, what's always referred to by the person as the Graz, the Golden Reb Zalman of Liadi. So the Shulchan Aruch Harav says that he feels that we can't paskin like the Shita of the Aviasaf, because that undermines the entire basis of what the content of a Prisha on the Onas Havest is all about. But what does that mean? So he cites a Chavaz Das. Chavaz Das written by Menasivis. The Chavaz Das here says a very interesting chiddush, and this is actually paskin halacha lamaisa, and that's as follows. We speak about over here v'chiyah Prisha during the Onas Havest, daytime or nighttime, Yom or Layla, right? Depending on when the previous Riyos were. Now, we know that classically, when we speak in halacha about the concept of a day or a night, right? So the classic concept of day or night, daytime begins halachically by the time known as Alosa Shachar, and daytime ends by time period known as the Tzeis HaKochavim. Okay? the Mishnah Megillah points out that l'chumra, since it's not always so clear when exactly the Alos HaShachar is, when's that dawn? Is it really getting light? Is it just, totally just spazzed out and seeing stars because it's like really early in the morning? I'm not totally up to seeing normally that time. So the Mishnah says in the Megillah that we always wait till the sun comes up. Then, that's for sure daytime. L'maaseh, Yom begins by the Alos HaShachar. From Shkia till Tzeis, the period of Ben Hashmarshos, is a suffix what that is. But nighttime, L'maaseh begins by the Tzeis HaKochav. Now, says the Chavaz that's true when it comes to all areas in halacha. Yom is from Alos till Tzeis. Laila is from Tzeis till Alos. But it's not true, says the Chavaz when it comes to Hilchos Nida and the Chiyuv Prisha on the Yom HaVest. Here we say that a daytime Chiyuv Prisha, the daytime is governed by the Netzach Chama, the actual sunrise itself, and the end of the daytime Onas HaVest is by the Shkias HaChama, by the sunset. The nighttime begins 100% when it comes to Chiyuv Prisha by Shkia, sunset, and the nighttime ends by the Alos HaShachar. In between the period of Alos HaShachar till Netzach Chama, that's already called the day, the Gabi Chiyuv Prisha. So the couple was to wake up early in the morning, in between Alos and Netzach, there was a nighttime Chiyuv Prisha. That's already called the daytime. Excuse me, and the Chiyuv Prisha is ended for them already from the Alos. Now, why is that true? Right? So the Chavaz explains very, very simply. Says the Chavaz, the whole concept of a Chiyuv Prisha, right, your portion, the day, during the night, this whole idea of the Onas HaVest is coming along to say that if we've seen that she's demonstrated that she sees a Rios dam during the daytime, that means there's something about the relationship between her body and the sun or the moon, right, depending if it's Yom or Laila, that can possibly trigger her Rios. In other words, we know, right, that on this day, last month, she's had a tofa'ah of a Rias dam. She's experienced and demonstrated that she sees dam on that day. And we look at it and say, well, what about that day makes it that there's a chiyuv? What about that day makes it that she saw on that day? Let's say for argument times 3 times she saw on the 15th of the month. Oh, so it must be that there's something about, and it's always during the daytime, right? Because that's the way we make a vest kavua. So there's something about the way the moon is placed, the moon is developed on the 15th of the month, halfway through the month affects her body, and the rising or setting of the sun also affects her in whatever way. And when it comes to the Chiyuv Prisha, we say now we're worried that since here's a day that we see that she is affected by one of those 2 celestial bodies, so now we're worried that if the couple is going to engage in a Tashmish Amita, that would trigger, right, the onset of a period. That's going to trigger the onset of a Riyaz Dam. In other words, the evidence is there that today does something to her, right? And now if they're going to engage in the Tashmish, we're worried that, oh, wow, that's going to be Mazaris, it's going to speed up the Riyaz Dam. So we say, you have to be careful, stay away from each other, be porish on that particular day. Now, says the Shulchan Aruch Harav, in light of that Chavaz Das, he says, listen, what are we basically saying? We're saying that what makes the Yom HaVest into a Yom HaVest, what creates the Chiyuv Prisha, is the relationship that her guf has with the Zericha, with the sunrise, and the Shkia, and the sunset. But the Shulchan Aruch Harav says, according to the AviYasaf, that there's just a 12-hour period that they have to be porish. That doesn't make sense in the slightest bit. According to that, right, we're not saying that the concept of the Chiyuv Prisha on the Yom HaVest is that we think that the day causes her to see it all. And again, stay away from Tashmish because the combination of, we're explaining right now, Pshat that the Lavush gives in this simon here, that the combination of the fact that biologically she's probably going to see today because we know that the way the sun and the moon are placed today are mashpia on her system. And if you're going to engage in Tashmish Amita, you're going to be Mazaris, you're going to bring about the Riyaz Dam earlier, then it might have come out earlier, meaning like boom, right now in the middle of the Tashmish, and then already the person will, God forbid, be over on an Easter of Bias Nida. According to the Aviasaf, the Shulchan Aruch points out, that's not at all what the Pshat in the Yom HaVest is. The 12-hour period that you have, which also extends into the nighttime, the night before, the night after, or if it's a nighttime vest, can extend to the day before, then the day after. So there, what you're basically doing is just setting up a buffer zone. We know what she normally sees, and we don't want there to be any possible deviation. So with a period around the 6 hours before, 6 hours after, a period of time before and after or around the actual Shas HaVest, we have a safety zone where we're telling that you want to stay away from each other, but it doesn't at all highlight this idea that the Chiyuv Prisha has to do with the relationship between our guf and the Riyaz Dam. Now let's point out that the reason why we believe that there is a relationship between our guf and a Riyaz Dam is because other areas in Shulchan Aruch very clearly hold of such a thing. When we want to determine whether or not the onas of vest, right, she has to be kovei a vest. So to be kovei a vest, you have to have 3 re'iyos during the same ona, either during the onas hayom or the onas halayla. And there, later on in Simon Kuf Peites, we very clearly hold that day or night is determined by the sunrise and then the sunset, right? And the reason behind that is because, and the Rishonim speak this out, the Ra'an, the Bedek Abayis, and other Rishonim speak out, is because, yes, we actually do believe that the same way the sun and the moon have an impact on tides and other things that go on in the world, has an impact on the flow of dam that comes out of the guf ha'isha, okay? And therefore we assume, let's say again, giving the example, if she usually sees on the 15th of the month, the assumption is that that's because that the positioning of the sun and the moon on that day actually do something to her right there. So that concept of the kesher between the shemesh and the yireach on her body and its cycles and its systems is actually an accepted principle in halacha. So the Chavaz Das was just coming along and saying that that's also nogeya to the Chiyuv Prisha that we're discussing over here. And as the Shulchan Aruch Harav points out, that once you're working with that assumption, the mahalach of the Aviasaf really is not so simple at all anymore, because it really does make more sense to say that we should just be looking at a chunk of the daytime or nighttime and not the 12 hours that are there. Okay, that's part 1 of the Aviasaf. Now, a very interesting discussion, halacha l'maisa, that's not found in the Shulchan Aruch, as we'll hear for obvious reasons in just a second, but is a sort of results in this this machlokus, we'll call it, between the Shulchan Aruch and the Aviasaf, the Shach and the Taz. Do we paskin like that, or are we machmir like that Aviasaf, or not? Now, bottom line is, just to make it clear, halacha l'maisa, we don't do the Aviasaf. No, nobody does that. I can't say nobody because I never took a poll everybody, but we're not known to do that anymore. That's the askam of all the poskim. That's the way all the moreh hara are going to paskin. And that's what it called. That's a safe what it called. The safe accepted halacha. The way a person is supposed to follow. Not like the Aviasaf, but rather like it says in the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah here, that we just look at the onas havest and that's it. And again, just to point out, as we did last week, sometimes that's going to mean if it's a daytime Chiyuv Prisha during the winter time, it means it's a shorter Chiyuv Prisha. It's not a full 12 hours. If it's a nighttime onas havest during the summertime, same exact thing. It is a shorter Chiyuv Prisha. It's not a full 12 hours. If it's a daytime Chiyuv Prisha during the summer, it's longer than 12 hours, and vice versa. When it comes to the winter time and nighttime, Chiyuv Prisha during the winter is longer than 12 hours. We don't look at 12 hours. We look at Yom V'Layla regardless of how long they're actually going to be. Now, there's a very interesting discussion now that comes up in the Shevet HaLevi Arav Vajner Zatzal. Arav Vajner discusses what today has become a much more common kind of a question about people who are traveling and the concept of time zones as they relate to the Chiyuv Prisha on the Yom HaVest. Okay, so the Shevet HaLevi brings down as follows. It's found in Chelik Daled in Siman Tzadi Ches. The Chuvas of the Shevet HaLevi brings down a suffix. He starts off with, again, one area, as I said, and then he has an interesting chumrah that we're going to talk about at the end. The first suffix, the question that he raises is, when you have a woman flying to America, from America to Eretz Yisrael, that's the example he uses. When she gets to Eretz Yisrael, because of the difference in times, so then it's already nighttime, let's say, right? The classic, you leave at midnight, and you get here at 5:30 in the afternoon. And if you're flying during the winter time, right, means by the time you land, it's already into the nighttime. I had this, I think it was last year, meaning not this past Asar, but last year's Asar B'Tevis, the year before. I needed to fly back from the States to Eretz Yisrael, and to the way the calendar worked, that a dafka had to be on Asar B'Tevis. So I flew out of Kennedy at night, and this was a quote unquote a freebie. You end up getting Asar B'Tevis. In general, is a shorter tinus, and at nighttime there's no tinus anyway. And the first, the sun comes up when you're flying in the airplane, or whatever time it does, sometimes 3 or 4 in the morning after you wake up, for davening, and you go back to sleep, or whatever it is, because it's still the middle of the night for you, because you're still in American time. When you land, it's already after dark here in Eretz Yisrael. So Asar B'Tevis on a day like that is basically an absolute zero. There's about 2 hours when you're actually awake on the plane that you're going to be fasting off. Shevet HaLevi discussed it. What about the Chiyuv Prisha? If you had a woman who had a She had a Chiyuv Prisha, during the daytime, and she flies to Eretz Yisrael, and she arrives at nighttime, or right, she's the opposite direction, or the opposite the opposite phenomena. So what do we do in terms of the Chiyuv Prisha? Would we say that, she was really, had she stayed in New York, she would have had a couple of hours more to the daytime? Or do we say no? You landed, it's nighttime already, and that's it. So there's no longer Chiyuv Prisha. You've taken care of that. So Rav Vajner says something very interesting. So he begins. I'm going to read some of the words of the tshuva. Do you have to try to make up, quote unquote, the lost time that you ended up losing because of the time zone change when you were flying? After came in the Inyan Onas Avestu Mishum de Alulu Liros Baoso shows Shehem B'derech Kla Bayom Ukeis Nishtana L'Layla. Are you going to tell me that since she normally would see during this time period, it happens to be nighttime, but she would have normally been on track to see now? Even though we know the rule is that it's the sunlight or lack thereof that caused her to see. Or do we say like in bias aveses kevin shaguf hurga liros b'shos elo ein shinu amakum gorim shinu begufa? Maybe you're going to tell me that since when you began, you're already in whatever onas avest you were. So the fact that you ended up having a switch because of the time difference, that doesn't necessarily mean that the person's body is not already under the influence of whatever the time was when you had it taken off. Excuse me, on that particular flight. So, for example, if you'd have had a nighttime, which example do you want to use right now? Let's say you had a daytime vest and he took off during a day flight where it becomes dark much earlier, right? So Rav Vajner says, well, listen, if you started off during the day, right? You started off during the day and it was already the onas vest, so maybe we would have assumed that she now has that entire day, whatever that day was, that we think that she was supposed to see. Again, I'm just making up an example right now. So if it's a summertime day, right, now she takes the afternoon flight out of Newark to Eretz Yisrael. So in theory, during the summertime, her chiyuv of Prisha would have been, again, I'm making up a number, about 13 plus hours, right? So she flies into the air, and way before 13 hours, it becomes dark because she's flying into Eretz Yisrael time. So do we say that the Chiyuv Prisha ends because it's dark, or do we say that we're not going to look at it like that. Rather, we're going to come along and say that since you already had begun that time where we say now you were affected by that particular day, so maybe now you have that entire 13 hours that your body is attuned that somewhere during this time there, you're going to see, which he says means maybe you shouldn't be making up the lost hours, even though technically it might be dark outside, or vice versa, depending on the time of year and the season that you're in, or which flight you're taking, which country you're going to, etc. The Vajra actually says he thinks you should be machmir about that. Very interesting. The Vajra paskins that once you began your Chiyuv Prisha, he says maybe you should be machmir to say that your body was already like in motion to say that the amount of time of today is supposed to possibly cause me to see, and one should actually try to count out the remaining hours. Again, halacha l'maisa, that's not what's accepted by the poskim. The poskim say that we actually do totally look solely at the effect of the actual night or light or darkness that is there, and therefore the poskim say that even if you went through a time zone change, if you walk off the plane and it's dark, even though you might have started in the broad daylight, I'm going to say that's the way it is. It's dark out, and the Chiyuv Prisha is over, or vice versa, depending on which direction and which time you might be going. Sometimes you can have examples where you have more daylight, and the Chiyuv, or more nighttime, and the Chiyuv Prisha can be elongated as well. So whichever way that works, so we assume the halacha that it's actually the sun or lack thereof that's going to influence the Yom HaVest, and not the amount of hours that the Chiyuv Prisha is there. So even though that psaka of Vazner Zatzal is not really exactly the same thing as the Aviasaf, but that's an interesting example of where the concept of the Aviasaf gets like sort of applied of the idea of counting down some like lost hours of a Yom HaVest. Okay, what I think we're going to do over here, also partially because we just lost half of the guys, where we're going to leave ourselves with the Aviasaf today. Once again, we're going to delay the Or Zarua till next week. The Or Zarua is going to go a little bit quicker. We'll pick up Be'ezer Hashem with the Or Zarua next week, and we will go from there. Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach. Have a good day. We'll see you. And any questions about what we just had done?